Hi, I'm Dave Epstein, and welcome to Growing Wisdom. It is early April. We're in Zone 6. What I'm going to tell you about today is how to plant some of those cool weather crops. Those of you who live in colder areas, you might want to hold off a little bit. If you live in a warmer area, perhaps you'll do this in March or even parts of February. So one of the things we've done is I've prepped the soil. So what does that mean? Well, I added some manure, I added some organic fertilizer, I even added a little bit of a mix, an organic soil mix in here, because over the course of the winter, the soil can actually erode out of the garden a little bit. So it seems like every year I have to add a little bit, and I think it's just a good thing to kind of beef the soil up. Now that we've done that, we're ready to plant. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down this really neat black plastic mulch. It's a fibrous material, water will drip through it, and it's going to keep the weeds out. So I'm going to put this down in a row all along this part of the garden. It's more difficult to do this if you're going to do seeds, but because I have seedlings, I can just poke holes in here and I'll be able to put the seedlings right inside this mulch. Now this whole area right here, I'm not going to have to weed. And that's a huge time saver. It will also keep moisture in. And if this ends up being a year without a lot of rain, this is going to become very important. All right, so the first thing I'm doing, I'm going to get this edge as even as I need to. So we'll cut off some of that old stuff, put that away. We'll use it for something. And then I'm just going to kind of line this up. So one of the things that I use are these landscape staples to keep this down, otherwise it's going to blow away. So I'm just going to put this in here. And this stuff works great. I've become a big fan of this fabric over the past several years. It's really saved me a lot of water and also just a lot of time during the course of the season, for which I don't have to weed. Weeding takes so much time in the vegetable garden, and it's so important that you keep the weeds out, otherwise the weeds are competing for nutrients, light, and moisture. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to figure out what I want to put where. So we have all these different vegetables, and I've got some broccoli here, and I think the broccoli is going to go in the back because broccoli gets fairly big. So the broccoli, we want about 1.5 feet to 1 foot apart, so we can get roughly 2 in this little section. It's a 3-foot section here. And then what do I want to put in front of that? We've got some other stuff to play with here. We've got some leeks. These take a long time. The leeks will take a very long time to grow. They're not going to get that tall, but I think we'll put those up in the middle. We've got some Swiss chard. And the Swiss chard can really go most of the season. That gets a little taller, a little bushier than the leeks, so I want to put the leeks ahead of that. So one of the things I'm thinking in my mind is, can I squeeze one more vegetable in here? And I think I can. So I'm going to put the kale behind the broccoli. That will be the tallest. So now we've got kale, broccoli, Swiss chard, the leeks, and finally some red cabbage, and that will tend to stay nice and small. Picture a head of cabbage you'd buy in the grocery store. Not a very tall thing. All right, so we're going to put the kale in first, and one of the things I'm going to do, it says to plant them 16 inches apart. Now, my experience, I've been doing this since I was 10 years old. I tend to push things a little bit closer together. So we're going to put the kale right at the edge, as far back as we can. And I just cut a little hole. I take the roots here, look how that's been in the package, and I'll just kind of break off the bottom like that. And I'm just going to put this, dig a little hole. Now remember, we just prepped the soil. It's incredibly easy for me to dig. In that's going to go. All right, so we're going to move on to the second one. And again, the same thing. Notice the roots here. We're going to break off the bottom of that. That will help the roots to establish themselves in the garden better. Then we're going to go smack in the middle. We're going to cut a little opening. I like to do a little X like that. Dig our hole. Now these are so small. This is super easy, folks. And in it goes. Pack it down, and that's it, number 2. And then we'll just continue this process with our kale, our broccoli, our chard, all the way up. We'll show you what it looks like in a little bit. All right, so we've watered everything in. Our plants are ready to grow. These are cool weather crops. You can plant them even if you're going to still get a frost. They actually like the cooler weather. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.